Well, welcome back in once again, everybody, to another edition of Pick Your Politics, the show that we think is timely, is relevant, is important. And of course, we talk about politics and the issues that are facing not only in the people in the state of Nevada, but all over the country. And there are many, many, many. We've got a wonderful guest for you today. I'm Dennis Silvers, along with my wonderful... Everybody agrees.
Thank you, Dennis.
My wonderful co-host, Stephanie Phillips. And we got an interesting guest on today.
We do. And it's a family court candidate for a judge position. And it's really important. Family court, out of all of them, are very important. Because a lot of people, it affects, when they have custody issues or divorce and all that. So, this is important.
I'd say it's also kind of an emotional position, wouldn't you say? Because you're dealing with divorces, you're dealing with children, you're dealing with abuse and stuff. So you got to get a little emotional about it.
Right. And the family court judges have a lot of discretion when they make rulings, and they have to take a lot into consideration and be fair, and it's probably one of the most difficult positions, I would say.
I agree. I agree with you. It's very important, and those of you that are watching that have been through family court for whatever reason know exactly what we're talking about. Well, let's get right to it. Let me tell you a little bit about our special guest, Mari Parlade. And she's an attorney who was licensed to practice right here in Nevada. In 2004, she has received, get this, a congressional and senatorial recognition for her pro bono work representing children, which is awesome. Mari has presided as an alternative hearing master for the family divisions, juvenile abuse and neglect, as well as for truancy, delinquency, and domestic violence. In 2013, Mari was hired to create and oversee the legal division for Clark County Family Services. She was recognized by Mayor Carolyn Goodwin and the City Council as the Las Vegas Compassionate Cities Award winner for strengthening families, which is also very cool. She is on the November ballot to be elected as a family court judge. She currently is the founder of Throne Domestic Limited, which is a liability company, and I find that very interesting. We're going to have to talk to her about that, but she recently had founded that. She's the founder and the what's the word that's slipping out of my head? The ambassador.
Wow.
That's what
she's done a lot of things.
She's done a hell of a lot of things. So right now it's our pleasure to welcome on camera Mari Parlade. And Marley, how are you? Thanks for taking time out. I know you're at a conference, and thanks for sneaking out and coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Dave and Stephanie, for having me. Thank you, everyone, all the viewers, and Rick for having me on the show.
How did I thought it was interesting, the founder of Throne Domestic, Limited. When I heard that, I thought we were talking about bathrooms when I said throne and, all of that stuff. What is that? How'd that come about?
It's actually Throne Room Enterprises.
Okay.
So Throne Room Enterprises, and that is actually the ministry side of what I do. So I have my professional life, my career as a licensed attorney, alternate hearing master over the legal division, and now running for judge. But, it's about having balance, right? And
right.
So my personal side of the house, I'm also a minister of the gospel. And so the ministry that I found is called Throne Room Enterprises.
Okay, I had no idea. Congratulations. So in other words, I can't use any bad words, right, during the interview?
Dennis.
You know what? You be yourself, Dennis. You just be you.
You can get on to him, Mari. It's okay. I do all the time. Not that it does any good.
Let me ask you this, to be honest, Mari. I really have never figured out why an attorney that has a very successful practice, that's making a boatload of money, all of a sudden wants to give all of that up to put on the black robe and sit on the bench? Why do you think? I have my personal opinion, but why do you think that is? What's so attractive about that?
I can't speak for others, but I can speak for myself. Growing up, being an attorney was part of the family lineage. I come from the Parlade lineage in the Philippines. Parlades are politicians and attorneys. I'm the first one born here in the United States as a licensed attorney. Actually, my uncle also is a licensed attorney, and he's a sitting judge currently here. He doesn't carry the last name Parlade, but he's part of the lineage, and he also is part of our family lineage. So being an attorney was already in the books for me.
Right.
When I became a licensed attorney out here, I was actually studying in the University of San Diego School of Law, and it was there that I discovered child abuse and neglect. And I discovered that there were children that were being abused and neglected in their homes, ripped from their homes, placed in foster care, sometimes to do better, sometimes to
Right.
only be subjected to more abuse and neglect. And it stole my heart. It captured me. And at that moment, I knew that I wanted to be the voice for children. I'm the kind of person where if I see things going wrong, we need to do something to make it right. I may not be able to change the world, but I can change the world that I live in and the path that I have. And so it was then that I discovered child abuse and neglect. I devoted my career to being the voice for children. When I came here to Las Vegas, I took the bar exam, and upon being licensed, my goal was honestly to be a children's attorney. So I went to the Legal Aid Center of Southern
Wow.
Nevada, and I said, I'm going to be a children's attorney, and I'm going to get paid for it, and I'm going to be set. I found out then that you can represent children, but you're going to have to do it for free because there was no budget for full-time children's attorneys at the time. And so that's actually how I had my law firm, Parlade Law, and I practiced at the time. It was real estate. Litigation was the heyday because we were in the middle of our burst of our real estate boom,
Right.
of suing
Right.
everyone for. So I fell into the practice of civil and then family litigation, and I was very fortunate to have a thriving law practice. But I got to be honest, my heart's desire was children and families.
Right.
So I represented the children pro bono, and it got to a point where it wasn't enough. I received congressional, senatorial recognition for my pro bono work. I didn't do it for that. I did it for the children, and I did that for 5 years while I had my law practice. And it got to a point where one of the judges recognized me because I would honestly sit in the courtroom, even though I had my caseload and I was done with my court hearings. I would just sit and listen to the other hearings, and I would kind of raise my hand saying, I want to represent that child. I want to do that.
Wow.
And I was kind
Wow.
of told,
Aw.
you can't do that. You have to go back to the Legal Aid Center, go through the
Right.
protocol. But, I was grateful for favor with the judges who said, you know what, but I'll put your name down here and then, go through the process and, we'll if legal aid assigns this can be your case.
Yeah.
I was
I-
grateful though.
I was just going to say, I don't mean to interrupt you. I know a lot of attorneys that love doing pro bono work, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you know former Judge Nancy Seda, who started CASA, but anyway, and I go, you do a lot of pro bono, that's great. So I guess you don't like making money, right? Because it's all done for free. So how do you feel about that?
Well, shout out to Justice Nancy Seda. She is actually one of my mentors, one of the
Really?
biggest influences
Great
in my life.
gal.
The reason I'm
Great
doing
gal.
this. Amazing woman. When I served as a judicial officer, she was one of my mentors who really guided me. I think, really for me as a personal choice, I made the money. I had a successful law practice, but it wasn't enough. I believed in pursuing my purpose. That's just something personal for me. And so representing children was a piece of the puzzle, but it wasn't until one of the judges leaned over to me and said, I think you should put your name in the hat as a judge pro tem. I was a brand new attorney, maybe just 5 years under my belt. But you know what? I had the heart and the compassion to do right by families, and that's what the judge said we needed. So I threw my name in the hat. Next thing you know, I was being called to sit for child abuse and neglect, delinquency, truancy, domestic violence. It was now no longer a matter of whether I was going to sit, but which court assignment I was going to accept. So I had to close my law practice down because I loved sitting. I loved sitting for domestic violence court, for family court, for each of these courts. And truly, each time I sat, it wasn't about me. It was about that family and they deserve to have justice. They deserve to have a fair and equitable decision
Yeah.
from a judge with a heart of compassion.
Yeah.
I've seen too many times where families come to the systems broken, only to leave even more broken.
Yeah,
And while
you're right. They need to get the right kind of justice. You hit the nail
Yes.
right on the head.
And like we were talking about earlier, family court, it's so difficult.
Yeah.
You have to be impartial. You can't put your own feelings in there. But Mari, you're a mom. And how is it that you hear all these cases and you hear what's going on, and how are you impartial? Sometimes you may, feel sorry for the mom or
Yeah,
whatever the
yeah,
dad's doing.
yeah.
And how do you keep that balance?
Absolutely. Well, I believe that being a mom and a wife of a disabled veteran has given me the factors that are needed to just have that empathy. I have to make a neutral, fair, impartial decision, but that doesn't mean that I can't do it from a place of empathizing that, what, I need to take my convictions out of the way and find myself in the place of those litigants. When I was sitting as a family court hearing master, for example, I would have moms coming before my court who you can tell were subjected to generations of domestic violence, maybe as a child, and then they were now in a relationship, and they're standing before my court saying, Your Honor, I love my children. Please don't take them away from me. And I would look at the case file and I would see history there of being in a relationship where they didn't have a voice, and so were subjected to situations that were not safe for them and put the children at risk of being injured. The children weren't injured, but they were at risk by mere fact of being exposed to the domestic violence. At that point, I realized that I was limited in what I could do. While I definitely empathized with this mom, I could not, as a judge, return this child back home to this mom while she continued to stay in an environment that subjected the children to risk or to harm, potential harm. But I knew that it was incumbent to equip this mom to
Right.
provide
Right.
counsel, to provide her with an opportunity, and not to throw the book at her. To sit in a position of authority, to let her know that, what, I believe you and I know that you want to do right by your kids. And here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you a counsel. I want to get you set up with maybe some therapy or some counseling or whatever services that we have in place that can give her an opportunity. It's up to her, of course, to take that opportunity and to use these services. But my role became really as an advocate in a sense. I was still a judge making decisions, but as a judge, you have to have a heart to recognize that the litigants before you have their challenges, and we can't sit from a high bench, from an almighty seat, casting judgments on them.
Yeah.
We have
That's
to
true.
come to a place of recognizing what their situation is and what they're encountering so that we can equip them and serve them.
Yeah.
As a
Right.
judge, public servants.
That's what you got to do. That's right.
Well, and you
Absolutely.
said your husband is a veteran. I met him the other night and I thanked him for his service, and you as well. But with the Veterans Court, I wanted to ask you about that. Explain to the viewers what that is, and if veterans are able to take advantage of that program.
I haven't served on Veterans Court per se, but I am aware that Veterans Court is an excellent opportunity, a first start. Let me start with that. It's a start to serve our heroes, our veterans who have served our nation, our country, and not just them, but their families. I, as a wife of a veteran, I don't just honor our heroes and our veterans, but I also honor their wives, their spouses, their husbands, their children for the sacrifice of allowing their veteran to go and serve. And so I've seen firsthand that when our veterans serve, they come back and they're not quite the same. They may be physically. For me, I've seen my husband physically disabled. I've also seen the mental and emotional toll and psychological toll it takes on him and us as a family. And so I believe that whenever a veteran is subjected to a court process, especially if it has to do with their family and the risk of losing family or any of their rights, we, government, need to do a better job to meet our veterans where they're at and provide them with the services, whether it's if mental health is an issue because of what they endured, then we need to do a better job of equipping them with the mental health and the therapeutic measures so that they can be able to be rehabilitated and go forth.
Yeah, exactly. That's well said. I want to ask you this, Mari, and Stephanie and I were talking at the beginning of the program, and you were listening in. I think being a judge in family court number one, is kind of an emotional position. Compare that with somebody who's in court presiding over a burglary case or a murder case. I mean, they've got the law to go by. It's down there in black and white. In family court, would you say you've got to be a little more creative? You have a lot more flexibility in what you bring to the family, or how you sentence somebody, or what you do with the children. It's kind of an emotional type thing, isn't it?
It absolutely is an emotional type thing. And that's why I believe family court is the most vulnerable and the highest call as a judge, because we're dealing with the most important, which is family. Let's face it, family is the cornerstone of everything. You know, you can take away my house, you can take away my money, but you take away my children or my family, and that will devastate. And so being able to serve not just in family court, but in child abuse and neglect proceedings, I believe that's the most complex of it all. Because in child abuse and neglect proceedings, I'm dealing with balancing, not first and foremost, the safety of this child, whether I can keep this child safely in the home. Oftentimes there are two different households. So I'm also dealing with a custody issue of, you know, mom wants the child, dad wants the child, grandma wants the child, auntie wants the child. You know, so we have different levels of the family, maternal and paternal family, feuding over the placement or custody of the child. So I have to balance the mother's side, the father's side, and keep this child at the center of it all to ensure the safety, protection, and well-being, and as we all know, the best interests of the child.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
not an easy feat.
No.
But I believe that my background and experience of having first started my legal career as a children's attorney has given me that inside lens to first learn to empathize and to listen to the child. As a children's attorney, you represent the voice of the child. And that for me was my foundational filter, because in order to represent the voice of the child, you have to come to understand and know a child. A 5-year-old client is going to be different from child client, is going to be different. Their wants, wishes, needs, their best interests will be different from a 1-month-old baby compared to a 17-year-old.
Right.
So really being able to have that perspective to understand, listening and engaging with the children at their levels is really critical, especially when you're now sitting as a judge, to take that as one factor. It's not the only factor.
Right.
Best interest is different from what the child wants.
Yeah,
And
that's where the flexibility
Yeah,
comes
that's
in.
difficult. One thing, Mark, we've talked about this before, is when it comes to voting for judges, a lot of people they don't know the judges.
They don't know at all.
They
You're right.
get to that part of the ballot and they just start
It's
checking.
guesswork.
Because they don't
Right.
get out and get with
They
the
don't
judges
vet
and
all
the
of these
candidates.
people, right.
So, Mari, what do you think is a good solution for that? And how do we get all these judicial candidates out more in the public,
Yeah.
where people can meet
People
you
know.
and get to know you guys?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, I think the political process of giving the choice to the voters is so important and absolutely integral. It's our citizens that have a right to choose and have a right to vote. But in order to do that, they need to get to know their elected officials, the
Right.
politicians, the candidates. And that's why for me, I can't speak for others, but I can tell you for me, it's important to get to know the community. I'm out in the community. Any invitation that you have for me to come to speak, whether it's a broadcast interview or to come to a gathering, like right here, I'm at a conference right now with a gathering of Filipino Americans from the National Association of Filipino American. We, Las Vegas, are hosting a national conference where people from around the world are here to meet. And I'm here meeting with everyone because for me, it's important to meet the people and not just meet them, but to listen, to sit down and listen. Let me hear about your stories. Let me hear about what is important for you. I'm so grateful that Stephanie, you and Steve have given me an opportunity to speak on your show, on his show, and to really hear the heart of veterans in politics and hear the heart of our veterans, especially since my husband is a disabled veteran. I want to learn from the voters because I'm not walking in saying I have all the solutions and I know what to do. I'm walking in to be teachable. I will tell you that I will apply the law to the facts. I have experience. I've served as a judicial master for 4 years, almost 4 years. On top of that, I've been given leadership responsibilities as a judicial master from our mayor, from Justice Seda, from the courts, because I've been entrusted as one that is about reform and solutions. Some of these things, if I can just speak to them because it gives an example, the best way I can give you a whole bunch of ideas, but the best thing I can do is actually give you real life testimony of what I've done so that you can test, you can look. When I was a master, when I was a judicial master, I was charged with leading an initiative called Courts Catalyzing Change. The juvenile court was trying to be designated as a model court by the National Council of Juvenile Family Court Judges. And as such, as the rookie hearing master, they said, oh, okay, why don't you take this? Well, as a minority myself, this was something very sensitive for me because it was about dealing with the disproportionality and disparity in our child welfare system. So what I did as a judicial officer is I reached out to the community that I knew on my personal side of my life, which was to the pastors, to the leaders, to the pillars in the community. I reached out on what started out as one simple email just saying, come, I'll have lunch at the courtroom on my, I'm paying for lunch. Let's sit down and let's chat. And I want to hear, what are your concerns? What are the challenges plaguing our families? And what can I, as a judicial officer, do to assist and help? That I led that for many, many years, many months. It gained such traction and momentum in the community. Pastors were coming to the table and sharing with me their feedback, and we were brainstorming together, building solutions and systems. And it received such traction that John Ralston invited me to be on his show, Face to Face with John Ralston, to speak about the elephant in the room, implicit bias in the system.
Yeah.
It's
That's
here,
awesome.
it's around the nation.
Yeah.
And so that's just one example. There's, Justice Zeta had me sit on all of her committees for the Blue Ribbon for Kids Commission. I chaired that with our mayor, talking about raising awareness in the community so that people understand how to navigate through child welfare system, education systems. Let's face it, we have so many systems and sometimes our families get caught up in the throes of the systems and aren't given a navigation tool or aren't given the assistance to navigate through there. My heart is to assist them with that. And so
Right.
I've worked in government to help create those systems. I served on the governor's task force to prevent the sex trafficking of children. And in doing that, it was the prevention subcommittee. I reached out again to pastors and leaders in the community already doing the work, service providers. And I said, come to the table. Let's do this together. Let's build this ship together.
Yeah.
And so that's just a testament to how I believe that we have a lot of work to do still here in our community.
Yeah.
On government, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
Right.
we have a lot of work to do. Mari, I wanted to get this in because we're running a little bit short of time, but you're a member of the clergy. Are you active? Do you hold services anywhere? How do you use that in your campaigning for family court, for judgeship? If you do.
That is more my personal life. So I'm not campaigning per se through religion, but those that know me in my church, they actually have been championing me throughout, even before I ran for office, even before I put my name on the hat. And so those who know me personally get a glimpse of knowing me in my capacity as a minister of the gospel, as I share and I pray and I wrap around and I do what I do best, which is encourage others and try to be there for them. But in my campaign, I am reaching out to everyone, the believers, the non-believers, the community, the Jews, the Christians, the Mormons, the agnostics. It's not about a religion. It's about family, children and families. And no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, a believer, a non-believer, an agnostic, at the end of the day, I don't know anybody that would say that children and families aren't important.
Yeah, that's top of the list. Yeah, top of the list.
Before we let you go, we want to know what events that you have coming up. I know your launch party is coming, and tell people how to get in touch with you, your website, contact information, and any other events that you are having coming up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I hope you'll be at my launch party and as well with Dave.
Yes, I plan to. Yep.
Fantastic. Well, yes, please come and join me August 25, Thursday, August 25, from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. I will be having my launch party. It will be at 6350 Phil Am Central. If I have permission with Stephanie, maybe we can post that or share it with the viewers.
Sure.
Because it's kind of in between. It's near the Boulevard Mall. The formal address is 3700 South Maryland Parkway, Suites. I can't really see that well. I apologize. I don't have my glasses.
I
but
have
we'll
your
post
flyer,
it.
so yeah, we'll
Okay.
post that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you can visit me on on the internet at www.mari, that's MARI, number 4, judge.com. MariForJudge.com. I invite everyone to spread the word. Come to the party. I would love to meet you. You have my commitment. My commitment is to meet with every person that is there. And if you want to invite me to your neighborhood to come to your gathering, I will come. I want to meet. I want to listen. I want to learn from our community, because to be a judge is to be a public servant. I've devoted my career to serving the public, and I don't intend to stop now. If anything, I intend to do more.
Mari, what are you serving at your launch party? Because it sounds like it might be milk and cookies. Are you serving booze? Are you serving beer? Am I invited? You're talking to Stephanie. You're blowing me off like, okay, don't come.
She's not going to feed you. Sorry.
We are going to have, actually, it's going to be catered. So we are going to have a charcuterie, I can't pronounce it very well, charcuterie cups.
Yeah.
And we're going to have, a friend of mine it's going to be catered by a chef who used to have a restaurant here in Las Vegas. And so they've done me a great honor and service to create. It's going to be all finger foods and appetizers. So it's not going to be a sit down, Texas de Brazil. Maybe the victory party will have that. But this will be really more, the goal is to meet and greet and for me to meet folks. But yes, we will have some appetizers and finger foods there.
Good.
Just so that we can meet. But hopefully you guys aren't going to come for the food, but hopefully you're come to meet me and chat with me. And I'll make sure that you have food though.
I get you. The hard reality is, Mari, the media just shows up for food and drink. That's it, pretty much. You know what I mean? But no, I am looking forward to it. I know that both Stephanie and I are going to be there, because I'd love to meet you.
Absolutely.
I'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
if I can put one more plug,
Yeah.
there is going to be. So August 25 is just the kickoff. It's like a little trailer teaser just to meet everybody, short and sweet. But if you want to sit down and have some real lavish food, the Filipino community is already preparing to do a sit-down dinner for me on September 2nd. September 2, it's going to be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I think it's going to be at the same venue. It's going to be a catered meal. I think they're going to be selling tickets, I believe $30 for the food, but it's all you can eat. And so they're not telling me all the other details. It is their fundraiser for me. But if you want to
Awesome.
come and sit and eat,
That's great.
You'll hear more about that on August 25.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds
We'll
so
be there
good.
for that too.
Yeah. Anyway, Mari, thank you so much. I know that you're at this conference and you took time out. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Very informative. We wish you nothing but the best of luck in your race. And again, if something Stephanie and I could do to help you out, don't be a stranger.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dave and Stephanie. It's an honor to be here with you. I can't wait to see you August 25. And please just spread the word. You guys are amazing. And I thank you and honor you for the great work you're doing.
Thank
for
you,
our
Mari.
community.
Thank you very
so
much.
much. See
We'll
you
see you soon. All right.
Bye.
Mari Parlade.
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 You did it right.
I got very interesting background that she has. But
Yeah.
like I say, you're right. That's a tough position in family court.
It is. I think she is going to be a great addition to family court because
She gets it. She gets it.
She does. She's done a lot of work for kids and advocates for the
Yeah.
kids, and that's
Yeah.
the most important thing about family court is the kids, because they're
Yeah.
the vulnerable, they're the innocent,
right.
and I think she'll do great in there.
Yeah, I do too. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for another edition of Pick Your Politics. For Stephanie, I'm Dennis. And remember, vet your candidates, get out and vote, and we'll see you back here next time. So long, everybody.
See you later.